modify that order sector by sector. We are moving into the sector where retail, manufacturing, and logistics are no longer defined by essential or non-essential, but by low risk and higher risk. And so that's the mindset we have: low risk, higher risk, and then of course, highest risk, which ultimately best defined by festivals and concerts and large sporting events with tens of thousands of strangers coming together. The restaurant industry is in this second phase, particularly dine-in restaurants are in this second phase. Of course, you've been all part of the first phase as it relates to meeting the essential needs of people that need to get food to go. But as we begin to modify, open back up our dine-in establishments, we have to be very, very diligent. This is, for me, a point of pride because this is my background as well. Restaurants, wineries, hotels. It's where I started, not just as a busboy at Ramona's Mexican restaurant in Santa Fe, but spent probably larger part of 30 years of my life building up restaurants and wineries. And so I'm very passionate about the work you do and very, very eager to hear from you about what we can do together to help me put out and help the team put out guidelines as early as next Tuesday to help counties that are ready to move into this second stage of phase 2 do it in a responsible way. Not every part of the state will be able to do that right away, but certain parts of the state will be able to do that as early as next week. And so we've got to get these guidelines up by Tuesday. And one thing I know in closing, there are no two of you that are the same. Maybe, Mark, you've got more similarities than most, but every restaurant is unique and distinctive: size, scope, from tablecloths, non-tablecloths, bars, non-bars, portion. I mean, the whole thing, different margins, different everything. And so I really hope we can have that conversation around some of those nuances, and you guys can help guide us in terms of bringing these nuances to light and these documents, these guidelines that we're putting out. So again, thank you all so much for taking the time. Mark, just because I did bring you up, just because you're a whole nother level in terms of size and scope and scale. And also in some of your protocols you've already put in place. I really appreciate you taking the time. Maybe you could sort of kick it off and tell us all what you've been doing and how you've been able to, keep things open, testing protocols, et cetera, despite all of these conditions.
Well, let me begin by saying that I firmly believe it's in our collective and individual best interests to follow the science and the facts, but really focus intensely on rebuilding confidence in the dining and shopping experience on the part of consumers. If we don't do that, if we don't rebuild confidence, this way back is going to be much longer than any of us would like and many of us can afford. And the way to do that, in my opinion, is to ensure the safety and the well-being of our team members and our guests. For us, it starts and stops there. It may sound overly simplistic, but we firmly believe that's the path. We continue to need, Governor, your imprimatur, though, because it provides legitimacy for our operators to do the kinds of things that we need to do in order to reopen our businesses. So as you've begun to set broad parameters, which really help, we need to make sure that we have the flexibility at the local level because there are differences. The more prescriptive I think we become at the state level, the more difficult it's going to be for us to find the nuances and the adjustments that are going to be appropriate for every restaurateur. And as you said, no two are alike. So recognizing the reality that there are local differences, I think is important. We have worked very diligently on a set of guidelines that we put in place beginning 6 weeks ago. And it's what I think allowed us to move quickly to the ability to keep 105 out of 193 restaurants open. And just going through them quickly, and I'll be happy to provide this to anybody who would like it, because these are best practices, I believe, that are industry-wide, and I don't believe there's anything proprietary, nor should there be anything proprietary, because we all come from that same consumer base. We started daily health screenings, including temperature checks, to make sure that everybody's healthy and ready to work. And we put a lot of emphasis on helping people understand that they really can't come to work if they're not feeling well. And that's a really important dialogue that our managers and our shift leaders have to have with every shift to make sure that people are healthy. We provide protective face coverings for team members, and we put plexiglass shields in front of our registers. We are asking our guests to wear face coverings where required by local authorities. And it's important that where required by local authorities, because I worry a bit about the health and safety of our team members confronting people who choose not to abide by the local ordinances. And I don't want to put our people in harm's way. Use of gloves by all team members from the time they enter to the time they leave. Maniacal focus on sanitation and disinfection. Availability of hand sanitizers throughout the restaurants. Social distancing markings throughout the restaurant. We're limiting the number of guests in our restaurants. We're introducing a one-way flow in, one-way flow out to minimize that contact. We've moved to all single-use items. We pride ourselves on plateware and silverware in a quick service environment. I've pulled that back for the time being because, again, it's about instilling confidence in that guest experience. We're focused on contactless delivery wherever we can, including setting up curbside service, which is going to become an issue with our landlords because for many of us, we don't have the legal right to do that, but there's a new normal here and we're going to need support to convince landlords to allow us to continue to do that. We've added tamper-proof seals and anything that we can do that illustrates to the guest when they walk in and even as they approach our buildings, what do they see? What are the cues? What are the signals that we can provide to convince them that dining with Rubio's is a safe experience? So it all gets back to my opening comments about reinstilling confidence in that consumer proposition, whether it's a chain restaurant, whether it's a fine dining restaurant, or retail for that matter. We've got to reinstill confidence.
I love that. What a great way to start, Mark. Thank you. And thank you for some of those, again, flexible, but still prescriptive thoughts and ideas as we try to balance this, including the landlord point, which I made a particular point to jot down. You know, it's interesting. You talk about consumer confidence, you talk about your employees. Debbie, it's a perfect segue to you. You were at LAX. You were concerned just in the beginning of this with international travelers coming through, people that weren't practicing any social distancing, let alone physical distancing, didn't wear face masks. And you decided with a lot of others that you may have seen enough for the time being. Tell us a little bit about your experience and what you want to see in terms of our efforts here.
Well, I think he covered that perfectly. I mean, those are a lot of the things that I would like to see put into place. Because like in the beginning, they started with putting in a lot of the sanitizer at the airport when you first come in, a lot of the sanitizer stations. But then LAWA took them out because they said, oh, the travelers are using them to fill up their own personal sanitizer bottle. So they disappeared. We had the guests coming in, some people wearing face masks. And it's the same thing that you see out in public. They take off the face masks. We have the dirty face masks on the tables. We have the gloves everywhere. I mean, I don't know, dealing with that. That was another thing. And then also our restaurants stayed open even after the other restaurants outside of the airport were closed down for sit-down dining. So it just didn't make sense to me why that they were still not in adherence to the rest of the code like everyone else. Something else I was just wondering on how it's going to look with the fine dining now, because I always say at the airport, people either have 5 minutes or 5 hours, right? They're either in a hurry, they got to go, or they got 5-hour delay. I mean, what is the dining experience going to look like in the airport situation when people have these layovers? Are they going to be allowed? I mean, we should be limiting the time that we have, you know, contact with the guest, right? Are they going to be allowed to be in that space for 5 hours, or should we limit the dining experience time. I mean, because it's a little bit different situation when you're serving someone as when you're just doing like, like a grab and go or takeout, right? I mean, you're going to have multiple contact with that guest, right? You're going to be serving a drink, you're going to be serving a course, you're going to be, you know, cashing out, so the time that you spend with that guest is going to be more than, like just a grab and go or quick fast food.
Debbie,
So
that's a great point. We were talking today about duration, talking about frequency broadly across sectors, but your duration, your issue around frequency is even more challenging in that kind of environment. It's very helpful.
yes. And then, yeah, so it's kind of hard to enforce, social distancing when, you're 3 feet arm's length away from a guest, very often. And I think also the point that that we're making, that you have to instill in the guests a feeling of safety, because before all this started happening, I personally was bringing my own sanitizer. And then I was offering it to the guests before they would eat. I would say, would you like some sanitizer? And they really, really appreciated that, and it reflected in the way that they treated me with my service, and they felt good about it. And I felt better about it. I felt safer. So, things that would make me feel safe is, like you said, having my own PPE, having, the cleaning supplies to do it and the time to do it, so, in the airport, you know how it is. You get these big rushes. Well, I'm sure that the travel is going to be a lot different for quite a while. It's not going to be back to the way that it was, but we do need the time in between to be able to do that cleaning, And then like for the fast food, we can't put a glass partition up at every table. So we don't have that extra added, layer of protection. So we have to kind of rethink a little bit the way that this is done.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Debbie. So from Mark to Debbie, sort of the larger construct. Brenda, you a different. You're down in Imperial Valley. I mean, you've got an establishment that has different conditions, different criteria, different challenges. Tell us a little bit about them.
Hello. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity of being here. It's an honor. And as small business and family-owned business, I began my restaurant 2 years ago. Began as a dream. Never thought where it was going to take us or how it was going to happen. I left my job because my son was suffering from fibro seizures, and it was either I was always running back and forth from the hospital, and decided one day leave my job and began this dream. Mom and brother always worked in the restaurant industry, and now we opened up inside a supermarket, pretty much to go, not knowing what was going to happen. Within 4 months, we outgrew, and we moved, and we opened up another establishment where we had dining area, and we fit about 30 to 50 people, and it has really it's been an amazing experience. I love what we do. We've learned so much along the way, and within the 2 years, we invested everything we had, asked for loans here and there, and now with all this, it was very scary. It is still scary to know that we've worked so hard to be here and to establish something as a family. And even my husband, he is also an essential employee. He's an Imperial County fire from the fire department, and he's getting calls every day. And as of now, we had, I believe since this week, 419 positive in our area, and it seems like it keeps growing. And we've tried, to be as safe as we can. We're very fortunate that, we were able to remain open. We've had all, the protocols and procedures, safety sanitizers, 3 people at a time. Our gloves, we had to put as well, the shields, to cover and protect. At the end of the day, we care about our customers. It has affected us. One of my girls felt very afraid and insecure. She left. She left, from one day to another. Just told me, I can't. I'm very scared. I'm not going to go back to work. And I've been working for the past month and a half every day, nonstop, 7 days out of the week, 12-hour shift. I have my kids here in the restaurant. I even built some teepee tents so that they could have fun, because I don't have any babysitters. No one wants to babysit them. So it's been really hard. It's been really hard. But I've tried, my best to remain positive. We've done, we do a lot of delivering, curbside pickup. You know, everyone that comes here feels like home. You know, it's Nana, it's home. It's like you're eating at your mom's, at your grandma's. We've had people crying. We've had people here saying, you know, we can't wait for you guys to open because we miss that atmosphere. We miss that, you know, contact with. It was yesterday was my mom's birthday, and they did a little curbside parade, and it was amazing to see all the support from the community and to see everyone, you know, bringing gifts to mom. And we've built something really, really, really special, and our community has been very supportive. But at the end of this, at the day, you know, as a mom, as a businesswoman, it's tough. It's tough, you know. They were even asking me if we even had to open Sundays so that we can make it, you know, through our payments. I don't want to be behind. I don't want to have to, you know, pay double the rates of everything. And because at the end of the day, you know, I'm still paying my loans that I used to open this building. So the fact that, you know, we're open and we're selling, it's good. You know, anything, it's good. I do know that if we do open the dining room, you know, as much as I want to open, you know, they're going to remove their mask. You know, how are they going to eat? You know, so we're still going to have that contact. You know, I miss the people, I miss the contact, I miss, you know, having them here. But as I keep seeing, you know, our community, it keeps, you know, spreading. It's small, you know, we have a small population. And it seems, you know, we've had, I believe, around 10 deaths here in the Imperial Valley. And for some reason, you know, even when we go to the store, you know, for us business people, we have to make line about 30, 45 minutes, you know, just to make sure that we're going to have enough food for the next day. We are ordering and from different companies, but we don't have that enough money to purchase, you know, a large quantity so that they can deliver everything for us. I have to go every day, you know, to purchase and make sure that they're going to have supplies for us. And now that they're limiting, you know, 2 sacks of potatoes, 3 sacks, you know, you can only take 1 gallon of milk, you can only take one. It's really hard for us because we depend on that this is, you know, we need to purchase at least, you know, more than one, especially, you know, for business owners. You know, I can't just take one, you know, sack of potatoes when, you know, all we sell is, you know, potato tacos. So it's been tough. It's been tough, but, you know, we've tried to make the best out of it and, you know, keep positive. I even, you know, my daughter, you know, was complaining that, you know, she was bored. And I said, you know what, okay, I'm going to make you a little lemonade stand. We build her lemonade stand. She has her mask and she's motivated every day to come. You know, she's selling in her lemonade stand and she's like, Mom, I want to be like you. I want to be a businesswoman. So that really like motivates me to know that, you know, she's seeing how much effort, you know, her dad and I are making to make this happen. And at the end of the day, she's like, you know, Mom, I want to have enough money to help, you know, and to serve. And at the end of the day, you know, what we're leaving behind in our kids is the most important thing for us.
Wow. Love it all. Talk
I'm
about
sorry.
dream, you talk about your mom, your
Very
kids. But that's, I think, you know, I love all that because it's not just a business thing. It's family and community. Thank you. Hey,
Thank
Charles, you know, I've known each other forever. And, you know, you see this, you know, poor guy, you got out of the kitchen. Now you got to run and manage businesses and manage other chefs. I mean, you recognize the thin margins and from being in a neighborhood and then these higher rent places. I mean, give me a sense of what you're hearing, thinking, how you're doing.
Thank you for having me. It's a huge honor. So I chose to close the restaurant down before the shutdown from the city because I saw those things coming. And one of the things that scared me the most was the staff getting infection. And that's the central theme with this pandemic, that I had no way of protecting them. We were at the Ferry Building, average diner, we served roughly around 800 to 900 people a day just on the customer, let alone staffing. So we have average about 80 people working inside one restaurant. So now I'm thinking about how do we move forward ahead. And I think one of the challenges for our industry is everything is upside down. You sign leases based on assumption that you had for the last 20 some years, and your check average, your guest count, all those out the door now. So, and I think a lot of us will need landlord to come play along, so we have some sense of we're not have these huge obligation as the quarantine lifted, then we can go back to work. And even so, I think it's going to be it's going to take a long time. Like Mark said, getting the customer to trust us. One of the things that I would love to hear, we hear a lot of the advice about social distancing, hand sanitizer, all that stuff. But also, I like to hear what happened if one of your staff gets sick.
Yeah. And I'm curious.
More scenario among us. If we see those scenarios, then we will, at least we're not in the dark of how to put because I just feel like even if we do the 6 feet apart in the kitchen, right now we're thinking about bringing back a bunch of people to do to-go only, and I still have not pulled the trigger because I don't have to act confident that I'm not going to get people sick. Like some staff, they're just not willing. They don't have that confidence that they come back. So I think some will. But what I really worry about for our industry is not just now. I think by the year end, people is going to run out of hope and cash and steam, because if you defer these rent, you just keep racking up debt. And then you had a little bit of your PPP money, but you don't know what your revenue is. You can control your food costs, maybe buy less, but really, if there's a constant ticking of debt racking up for all the restaurant, I think you're going to see a lot of people just going to throw in the towel. As successful as we are, I mean, I have a bar, hard water, a lot of bourbon, and it's 1,200 square feet. And I can't really distance. I mean, you can't really eat and drink with a mask on. So we need to sit out until things come back. But if I'm racking up, 30, 40K a month in rent, then all of a sudden, like you're just gonna run out of steam. But I think that we got to learn how to serve in this environment once one thing gets a little bit better. But it's very abrupt for us to change. And I remember seeing the reservation drop within, I think the large party was dropping in January and February, but we usually have 300 reservations at Sandor average per day. By Friday, the 13th, I think we're down 30%. By Saturday, we start 85. By Sunday, we lost 95%. So this is without the city closing down, just news. It was all over the news. So by now, I don't think confidence is not there. People are not going to come back. And until then, restaurant got to have a way to survive. And I think those assets could sit there and do something else and not burn through cash. And that's why I'm working on figure out how to make food delivery, cold food for the cooking kit and so on. But the one of the things I don't know is what happened if, and by the way, I have story about food production facility, people getting sick. I mean, like the story you heard about on the meat plant, those things just, that's what we do. We're shoulder to shoulder cutting onion and chopping beans. And we're not cutting meat, but we'll get sick the same. So how do you move forward to that? And if somebody gets sick, what are the guidelines? How many quarantine, all that? I think all those new get to us will make us feel a little bit better. And some of us will willing to take some of that risk. And I think if you get those information to the staff, and not everybody will do it, but some will.
I appreciate that, Charles. And interesting. I'm glad we have Mark on the line. We're going to ask him what happens when someone tests sick in a second. But I want to first get, and it's important, I think that's exactly kind of insight I need in terms of helping Tom and Ann and all of us figuring out what these guidelines look like to protect not just, again, the establishment of the business, but our workers as well, and what are those protocols. You got Mariana, I love your background. You were a dishwasher for over a decade, and you're down at, one of the great institutions in the world that happens to be in the state of California.
Yes.
I'm so honored you took the time to be here. How are you guys operating down at Homeboy or Homegirl, and how you guys, what are you looking? What are the questions or comments or private conversations you guys are having that we need to know about?
Okay, so I think first and foremost, I see that like everyone is feeling. I don't think the restaurant business is always gonna be the same as it was before. Like as far as us, our revenue, hardly a lot of it comes from our tours. People touring from out of state or from out of overseas a lot, right? And then of course we have downtown folks and just from all over, regular folks, but we don't see that ever happening. Even when slowly the shutdown started happening, right? Like we've seen the revenue slowly adjusting to it. So yeah, we foresee it. We're not going to be it. I mean, we're fortunate enough to have gotten contracted with these meal contracts, right? Meals on Wheels. I know that we're doing a WEED Act for senior citizens, and this is how fortunate we've been. But even at that, it's not promised. By July, we're not having any more contracts. To my knowledge at this point, so we're just trying to gather as much contracts right now and try to see. But for sure, we're never going to be the same way we were then, and again, I do apologize for the noise around. I am in service right now. We are in full production. I do have my gear and I don't have my mask on because I am by myself. And so I'm okay. I'm not exposing anyone. But like Mark, we had to set these protocols right before, this whole thing happened. We were taking temperatures. We are taking temperatures now. We're providing masks and gloves and all the safety measures. We had to map out the floor out, and it's been something. It's retraining the staff. We are a nonprofit, so it's making a menu with the items that we do have in house. So it's something, you know what I mean? The money's gonna run out eventually. And it's that, and because of the population we are, we're trying to stay present within the community, and the people here, they feel great because now it's our turn to show up, be there, and support our community folks. The elderly, the youth. We also have a contract with Tech that goes out and provides meals for homeless youth out there. So yeah.
Hey, Mariana, just out of curiosity, and it's relevant to Mark as well, but when you're testing people, do you worry that, have you had incidents where someone had a temperature of 100 and they're like,
Yes.
Come on, Miranda, let me go back to work. I need to work. I can't afford not to work. And how do you deal with that? Because you don't want the spread. You want to keep them healthy and safe, but there's an economic.
Yes. So from the beginning, right? So I think this is a different level of trust that we had to build with our teams here. So from the beginning, it's like, hey, this is what's happening. We initially had to break the staff when it was really like, okay, non-essentials are closing, and everybody started panicking because we were still in service. So we had to relax them, calm them off. We had to break them off for like a week or so to just, get their nerves right back and set this confidence of we're going to be okay. So we do have individuals right now that, it's hot outside. That they, as soon as we take their temperatures or, they've been sitting in their cars, their temperature rises to like 100, So what we do is like, all right, we know that you're not sick, but let's go cool you down. And, we have a shipping, an office in the back where we have an AC, and then we'll test them up again, So those are the safety, measures that we've taken now, that we know that they're not, and we do that.
I appreciate it. Mark, what happens when, because that the give and take, right? An employee just needs to come to work. Maybe they lie about how they're feeling. How do you give them confidence in that respect too?
We're very early on in this process with thermometers. They're hard to get. They're actually very difficult to come by. But this issue of people coming to work sick is not new. It's been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. but it's a challenge we have wrestled with for as long as I can remember, because the practical reality is most of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And the reality is that there's that dynamic tension between getting people to trust you that you're going to take care of them, you bring them back as soon as you can. But we have an obligation to the rest of the team and to our guests to send them home. It is not a simple equation. It's a very nuanced, very difficult proposition. If I might add one thing Charles mentioned that reminded me, I do think this issue of landlords is a real problem. And there's some interesting bipartisan legislation that surfaced in the last 36 hours from Michael Bennett in Colorado and Todd Young from Indiana that has some very interesting aspects to it. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it basically would extend the PPE from 8 weeks to 16 weeks, and then some new funding with a program that they're calling Restart. It's worth looking at. It's a very thoughtful, nuanced approach. Some of the best legislation I've seen so far. So I would call your attention to that.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. And made a note of that. And our team will definitely track that down. I mean, Charles, do you see yourself opening back up, doing temperature checks, or is that even at this stage, even in your mind as you're trying to figure out next steps?
No, definitely. I wanted to start at least with the production. We fortunately have a 10,000 square foot commissary that we don't have customers in, so we can start from there. We'll start developing a product that could sell into grocery stores. So we're trying to reinvent ourselves. If I can put bourbon in a jar and sell it, I'll do it. I think ABC led me. But we definitely will do temperature check and so on. And I can see that happening fairly soon. But what I don't have confidence about is, sometime, they don't have temperature. They're infected later. So now they're in the hospital and now they notify you. And now what happened? Do I, food's produced? Do I throw everything out? Do I quarantine myself and everybody for the next 14 days? Like, what are the protocols? And so what are some of these statistics? I don't think those statistics are in the news. So it makes it a little harder for myself to make that decision. But more important, I think it makes it harder for the employee to come to work. So I think that we need to start by reaching out to our past employee and say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're about to start, but any question you'd like to have, these are the protocol. What's your question? I can see that coming. So I want to get ahead of it so that I could start that. So you can start with the production and to go and get that going. And once you feel comfortable with that, then, and when the time comes that we can allow dining in, and by then, I just don't see customer wearing masks inside a sit-down restaurant. I just can't see it at this point. Physically might not be possible.
And then you've got the concurrent problem, as Debbie was saying, of people taking their masks off and their gloves and putting them on the table. And that has a whole nother setup.
Yeah, right. So by then you should be pretty confident that that you're not going to get sick because you're carrying food that are open from the kitchen to the dining table. Now anybody can sneeze onto it, right? I mean, it's not covered, it's not stationary. At least in a to-go setting, everything is stationary. You cover it up as you package and it's not exposed to. And now in the restaurant, things travel from, if you have a large restaurant, it goes through different stages of the dining room. And some setting, the bar, it might not make sense for you to bring people back because now you sell 10 cocktails a night. So the math doesn't work. So, so I think we just have to be realistic about, in some scenario, we'd be better off trying to find something else to do, because it's just the math is not there.
And that's a great point about math. Brenda, let me ask you, I mean, if there were a condition for you to reopen, I saw one state said 25%, you can reopen with 25% of the tables. Another state had 30% of the tables. Others say it's 50%. Let's assume California said you could do 50%. Can you make it work if we said reopen, but with 50% capacity?
Sure, absolutely. I think, I mean, anything will be good. Anything would help. Obviously, at the end of the day, what matters is the safety of the people and everyone, and obviously, I want to open. I want to be there, for my customers. I want to bring that atmosphere again. But I also want to make sure that, they're safe, that they feel safe when they come here. And, but I mean, even, 20%, 30%, at this point, anything would help, improve our economy.
No, I appreciate it. Debbie, listening to all this, what thoughts go through your head? You're hearing from everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm sorry, I forget people's names, but I agree. It's really hard to imagine people coming in to sit down right now in this situation and eating with masks. And then also it's the fact that, I mean, even though we are going to be wearing gloves, you're going to be touching plates that have, body fluids on it, right? Where people were eating, so that's another, side of it. It's, yeah, I mean, it's scary. It's scary for me. That's one of the reasons why I came out early. I mean, there is that side of it. And then, we have to think about some of the older people, I being one, who have underlying health conditions too. So we need to think about protecting those workers. And like you're saying, people, what about when they get sick? We did have an incident at the airport in one of the units where a manager was tested positive, and that unit, not my company, another company, but that unit closed down for 8 hours of cleaning, but they still had the workers coming to work. They didn't have them quarantined. And then they had other workers that were coming to transferred over to that same unit, and they were scared to go and work, but they didn't want to work, but they forced them. So I don't know. It's just kind of a scary situation for me.
I appreciate that. Tom, you're listening in on all this, and as you and your team are putting together these guidelines, you're working with this amazing group that you've assembled of recovery advisors. What's going through your head at this point?
Well, I want to thank the people on this call. I know the governor's been in the restaurant and hospitality business, but I think you guys have explained really the personal issues here in a very important way. And I want to thank you all for doing that. And I want to also say, I know that Ann mentioned that Charles Phan is on the task force, but so is Dee Taylor, who is the head of Unite Here Union, is also on the task force. So just all of you should know that the sensibility that you're bringing is, we are hearing it directly. And I want to say, I took what Mark said at the outset really, really seriously, that this is a question about reestablishing trust broadly in restaurants. And so that his protocols and his advice, he doesn't want to keep to himself. And I agree with that, because it's not a competition between restaurants at this point. It's a competition to convince people that they're safe, working people, as Deborah said, and also customers that they're safe. And I had one question. So I think there's got to be some way, maybe it's through the Restaurant Association, maybe it's through the state, where the protocols and advice people can get with a lot of detail as they think, because every restaurant is different. But I have one question. I don't know that there's a good answer to this. Charles was kind of asking it. Is there a way for us to encourage and help an information technology advantage as we move back to confidence? Is there a way to, I think Charles was saying, is there a way to change the model through some form of ordering or delivery that's different, that takes away some of the risk in the interim? I don't know the answer. Obviously, Brenda you've been trying to do things like that. And Mariana, you've been changing the model, but is there an information technology way that as a task force and as a governor, we can push to make your lives to deliver in a different way, the same kind of high quality food?
That's a good question. No, I think it's that, right? It's like what everyone's bringing up, you know, like luckily we haven't had anyone got sick, you know, we're grateful for that. But it's that part, you know, the protocols, procedures, and more or less thinking about them like moving forward. It's kind of like the health inspector, you know what I mean? Like I know the CDC is on it. We've been doing as we're instructed, you know, but then it's developing that plan, you know, like the aftermath of it all, you know, but yeah, and just, you know, sticking with it and following through with it, because yeah, safety, even here, it's number one. You know, like we could stop production is nothing, but as soon as one of us gets sick, it's over, you know.
Yeah.
I would add two things. I go back to the curbside delivery question, and we're going to need help and support from the landlords.
Yeah.
This will be new and different because the Rubio's model is changing. You know, we've been known for the salsa bar for 36 years. It'll be a long time before you see an open salsa bar. So we've had to rethink that. But the other part of the equation is so many of us as restaurateurs are relying on the delivery services, Uber Eats, DoorDash, Postmates, Grubhub, et cetera. We need to make sure of two things with the delivery partners, that their pricing is appropriate. They're entitled to make a profit, but one sometimes wonders about the margins. I'm not in that business, so I can't speak to it definitively, but I know a lot of my fellow restaurateurs are very concerned about the pricing protocols with the delivery partners. And the other part of that is let's make sure that they are adhering to the same standards as we are, because they're the last mile in delivering the food for a lot of people. And it doesn't matter how safe we are if that last mile purveyor isn't doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to get visibility to it.
And not only that, I mean, it's also, they place that order, and just like today, you know, I had an order of about $230, and I'm not gonna get that money until like a week or 2 weeks, because they're not gonna pay. I mean, we invested so much, you know, and we put so much out there, but I'm not getting that money today or tomorrow. I'm getting that money, you know, within the week or 2 weeks of that purchase. So, you know, I'm putting out the produce and you know, but you know, I'm falling behind as well. And obviously, you know, it's a great opportunity for me because I'm, you know, the cashier, I'm the one that's also delivering, I'm the one that's also, you know, answering phones, and I need someone to help me deliver. But at the same time, you know, it's taking a while for me to get that, you know, money back. So, you know, and as they mentioned right now, you know, also, are they also, you know, we can be safe as much as we can, but, you know, are they doing the same thing? But we have to trust them, you know, we have to trust, you know, our food, we have to trust, you know, everything. We have to put ourselves, you know, out there so that they can do their job and also, you know, be part of it. But I mean, we're also putting ourselves at risk at the same time.
Appreciate that. Anne, you have any thoughts as we get closer to the witching hour here?
I just want to say thank you. I mean, every time we do one of these, I just learn so much from all of you who are on the front lines. Today, our director of the California Department of Public Health, Dr. Angel, was not able to join us, but one of the things that she has been informing us of her concerns with regard to face coverings and the unintended consequences when people take them on and off. And this is the most concrete example I think I've heard of what that really means in a restaurant setting when people are obviously needing their mouth to eat. And then what happens in terms of those issues. So I really appreciate you going through that with us. And the other thing that was really stark for me is something that we've been dealing with is just the supply chain issues, everything from the potato example that Brenda gave to the thermometer example that Mark gave, which is that, you know, we just have a lot of supply chain issues that we're dealing with and understand. And I just want to say the governor has been working on and really pushing us on just this issue of how are we thinking about commercial rents and what are we doing there. And I just want you to know that this is a really hard issue that we've been talking to the private sector, to banks and others about, and we don't have the answer yet, but we certainly are very much rolling up our sleeves and thinking about it. And I appreciate you calling my attention to that federal piece of legislation, which we'll also take a look at. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And just, and forgive me for being selfish. I mean, Charles, you reference PPP, but anybody else have any success with that? I mean, Brenda, did you even try to apply for it, or?
I applied for it. I haven't received anything yet. I literally applied everywhere. But also something that's really affected me is the fact that, in order for me to open up my business, I took out, some other loans, and my credit went down. So, that's been one of the struggles. The fact, I've been working so hard, yet, I'm also working and trying to get my credit up so that I can, be able to qualify for, more opportunities. But it still, takes time. So, I'm just patiently waiting to see, of any help out there. But I'm working every day. I'm working 7 days out of the week. And, just at the end of the day, trusting God that, he's going to provide. And hopefully, we do qualify for something soon. And even though, we're a small business, I'm here, big chains here. And, and it's amazing to hear their stories. And, we're also struggling. We've invested everything in here. And, my family is here every day. My kids are here every day. I still have to close down and then go home and still have to deal with their homework and see, how my daughter's gonna, do that online stuff. And, it's tough. It's tough. She's been struggling with, trying to figure out how do we log in, trying to Zoom in with the teacher. And, I'm here, serving some food. And, she's over here yelling at me, Mom, I log out. And, it's tough. But, we've learned so much along the way. And, it's been an amazing road. And at the end of the day, we're together and united as a family. And she's, make her own lemonade stand. She wants to open a bank account. And yeah, it's amazing. We see the positive in this, and, can't wait to be able to serve, our customers and our community. And I know it's going to take time. It's going to take time. And, we wish that, there was this magic wand that could change everything. But I think, at the end of the day, we have to accept, what's going on, and mentally say, what, one day at a time, and we'll get there. So thank you for this opportunity, and hopefully, it all works out for everyone. We've made some videos, with local restaurants, just trying to help each other. And like they mentioned, it's not just me, it's, everyone here in the Valley, every restaurant, every business that's been hurting. And but thank you so much. And also, for my husband, he's also, essential worker, and that fire department, they've been going through a lot, especially here in the Valley. They've had some fires, and it's hot, and he's been working 24 hours as well. And just praying for them that they're safe. Even for them, they're at risk every day. He comes home, he has to take a shower before even coming close to us, because he's exposed to all this, and they're getting calls every day. But just trying to remain strong as a family, and just trusting in God at the end of the day.
Oh, well, I can't ask for a better way to end this Zoom call. And thank you guys, all of you, for all the insight and everything you're doing, the spirit that brought you together, and the spirit of optimism through these incredibly challenging times. And so we will do our part to incorporate so much of what you have offered, your insight and counsel. And I know Tom and Ann are very grateful as well. And we look forward to doing justice to the time we took from you today.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.